Welcome again, dear listeners. I am Grim Strife, and thank you for joining me again for the third installment of my lore breakdowns of the worlds of the Weave. We've talked about the Weave itself and the Unreal, born from its walls. Now I'm going to touch upon some of the major threats to the Weave and those within. These threats not only come from outside of the Weave, but within it as well, and the Weave's very existence seems to summon these threats. Though, as always, the Weave pushes on, either fighting them itself or being defended by its progeny. Now, to start, an excerpt.
No, listen to me. Clearly the other should be classified as the greatest danger,
a man in a black cloak announced to a group of 8 similarly dressed individuals before him. They huddled around a single candle in a brass cradle that sat upon an old wooden table in a dark corner of a room.
Yes, you would be right if it were a few centuries ago, but the other is gone. Haven't found any evidence of it for a long time. Now the Shur'esh are still clearly active. They raided Harad only slightly more than a year ago.
A second man, whose aged face and gray features were bathed in dim candlelight, passionately retorted.
The Shur'esh. Glorified bandits, if you ask me. They haven't been a real threat since Katia was cast from the Weave. They're running on fumes. You'll see, they'll be gone in a century or two.
A thin, elderly woman chimed in. Surely the Darren ought to be considered. A small man, without looking up, quietly added, and the others turned to look at him.
Maxton, we've gone over this. The Darren don't exist. Don't waste our time with wives' tales and stories told to children before bedtime. Can someone tell me why we keep inviting him?
The first speaker responded with a chastising tone.
Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that those who have knowledge on these topics are so few. But surely we could find someone of a higher caliber than someone obsessed with fictitious creatures that swallow worlds whole.
Maxton slumped down in his chair, even though he had grown used to the others ridiculing his research. But after a moment, he rose again, this time showing his bright blue eyes and dark features as he scanned the others, before quietly whispering, "What about the Outer Dark?" The side conversations and arguments that had broken out amongst the group stopped. They fell silent, and each in turn looked at each other, and a silent understanding came over the group. It was a name rarely spoken, and none had let the other know they had heard whispers of it. The first man nodded and gave Maxton a smirk.
Yes, that would be a good topic for this year's meeting. Come, everyone. Let's share what we know of this Outer Dark.
The group quietly huddled around the candle once more, and slowly, their tales were told. The most historically impactful threat to the Weave and its children is the Other. The Other is a mysterious entity, or group of entities, that appeared within the Weave several millennia ago. Where exactly it came from and how it came to be is unknown. What is apparent is that it desires the destruction of the Weave, or at least those within it. The Other seems to be able to negate the energies of the Weave. This is demonstrated by its ability to rip worlds and entities directly from the Weave, causing worlds ripped from the Weave to turn gray, as all life within and on them ceases to be. This seems to be its primary goal, as it travels through the Weave searching for worlds to pluck from it. This is, of course, what led the Unreal to conflict with the Other, causing a war within the Weave between the Other and the Unreal, gods of origin, gods of aspect, and lesser beings specifically created to aid in the conflict. While many lesser beings are unaware of this conflict, or have only slight knowledge about the war, it has caused massive damage to the worlds within the Weave. The most notable world to be claimed by the Other was Dolan, the homeworld of the Arun. Though many Arun escaped this calamity by being off-world or through the sacrifice of their gods of aspect, buying them time to evacuate through their Weave channels or aboard their Weave ships. The Other appears as a massive dark cloud with motes of red energy that blink in and out of existence within it. Its actual physical composition is not known. Some do claim to have seen a pair of massive red orbs that appear from within it, scanning its surroundings like a pair of eyes. When Dolan fell, those aboard the Weave ship swore they saw a hand reach from the cloud, engulf the world, and tear it from the Weave. Whether or not the other is one or many beings is also in question, as it has shown itself capable of producing smaller entities that perform other functions. These include its harbingers, who travel far from it, searching for worlds, and then calling it forth to destroy them. These harbingers are incredibly powerful on their own, as they themselves have claimed the lives of several gods of aspect. They tend to have a roughly humanoid silhouette, while maintaining a difficult-to-discern image, as they seem to be made from the same black cloud material that makes up the other's form. The second most notable group are the Flung, much smaller entities that often rain down upon worlds that are soon to be destroyed by the other. These beings range in size and strength, but are often the force that ties up the world's lesser defenders, while destroying methods of escape, trapping the peoples of the world to await their fate at the hands of the other. The gods of origin fought with the other many times in past millennia, and many times were able to push it back. Even still, time and time again, it would return on its ceaseless mission to destroy the worlds of the Weave. As to whether this conflict is still going, is over, or is just a moment of peace in between periods of conflict is unknown. The gods of origin don't share details about this war with lesser beings, and so the overwhelming majority have no knowledge that such a conflict even exists. The next threat was not as impactful, but is much more understood and active within the Weave, that being the Shur'esh. To understand the Shur'esh, we must start with their god, Katyr. Katyr was one of the Unreal that left the central core to explore the outer reaches of the Weave. For centuries he was absent, but returned shortly after the conflict with the other began. When he returned, he became a god of origin, embodying the aspects of dominance, control, and victory at all costs. But instead of joining his brothers and sisters, he consumed a kinsphere and created the Shur'esh, and began to wage war upon his brothers and sisters, seeming to aid the other, though the two never fought together. Instead, one's actions seemed to further the other's goal. Throughout most of the early war, Katyr was responsible for causing the defense of multiple worlds to fail, allowing the other to destroy them. Finally, after many battles, Katyr was overwhelmed by a coalition of gods during a battle within the Weave channels. The Weave itself seemed to respond, as when Katyr was cast into the channel wall, it pulled him in, consuming him whole. Most who have knowledge of this event believe he was cast out of the Weave and now exists somewhere beyond. Though Katyr was lost, the Shur'esh remained. The Shur'esh have no homeworld as it was consumed in their creation. Instead, they travel in massive Weave ships that move in small flotillas of 3 or 4 ships. Each ship holds thousands of Shur'esh, and thousands of those they have taken from worlds they have raided. Created by Katyr to destroy the creations of the Weave, the Shur'esh feed upon the energy of the Weave that grants life to lesser beings. Due to this, they require a steady flow of beings captured from worlds of the Weave to continue existing. Each group of flotillas travel their hunting grounds, periodically raiding the worlds within their area of influence for sustenance. This constant conflict with world's defenders, both lesser and greater, plus the conflict that sometimes arises from the flotilla entering the hunting ground of another, has kept their numbers in check. If not kept in check, they would eventually truly become a major threat, as the magics they weave and the technical know-how they have make them a threat even to the gods of aspect. The culture within the flotillas does vary minorly, but for the most part they follow a similar structure. They have a stratified society based upon genetic traits that are seen as desirable. Those that have the best traits are given station at the top of society, acting as civic leaders, military commanders, and on rare occasion, diplomats. Though their society is stratified, each individual is valued for their place in the whole. They honor those that accept their place and perform their function, as without them, they believe society would collapse. The Shur'esh do not possess gender in the traditional sense, or perhaps one could say they have one gender. Instead, to reproduce, two individuals will exchange genetic material, one choosing to gestate it in their chest for a time, before removing it and placing it in their incubation halls located in the central corridors of their ships. The Shur'esh appear as bipedal humanoids with 2 arms and a head, though this is where the similarities with humans stop. They have a light brown, wrinkly skin that hangs below their eyes and neck, no visible ears or hair, 5 eyes, one sitting in the middle of the forehead, the other 4 moving down the sides of the face. Instead of a mouth, they have a protruding lavender dome covered in vertical lines that resonates as they speak. I can dive deeper into the Shur'esh in another video. For now, I think the point is made. Now to move on to the least known of all the threats to the Weave. The one that truly does pose a threat to the entirety of the Weave. The Outer Dark. It is believed that nothing within the Weave can exist within the Outer Dark. Not even the Weave itself can fully resist the Outer Dark. It would seem the two are locked in a constant tug-of-war, as the Outer Dark pushes in and the Weave pushes out. Constantly, the outer layer of the Weave is torn apart and rebuilt over and over again. The vast majority of the energy produced by the Weave is used in this process. Perhaps the Weave would be truly endless had it not been for its greatest enemy. The energies of the Outer Dark and the Weave seem to be opposites of each other as they react violently. Due to the Weave's incredible defense, very few within the Weave have any knowledge of the Outer Dark. There are some ancient lesser beings with vast wealths of knowledge, and others that have been given some knowledge by their gods of origin. But even to the gods of origin, little is known. Some believe the other is an intruder from the Outer Dark, but the energies each produce are not the same, and the other's ability to exist within the Weave unabated suggests this is not the case. The most notable interaction with the Outer Dark and the Weave is when a hole was bored through the Weave, and a world named Vath, or Nexus by those who inhabited it, was struck by a pillar of energy from the Outer Dark. This not only cut off travel from Nexus, but also released horrors from the pillar that would plunge the world into darkness and constant battle for survival. Another known incident would be the shattering of Castigan, when a group of human cultists believed they would obtain godly power, opened a gateway to the Outer Dark. The gateway was only open for mere seconds before the head of an unworldly beast pushed through and let out a scream so powerful it not only collapsed the portal, but shattered the continent that held the nation of Castigan. Needless to say, the Outer Dark seems to possess beings of its own, and they are horrors to those within the Weave. And there you have it, dear listener. 3 of the greatest threats to the Weave. Well, kind of 3.5. I have more to come. I am currently working on getting together the Gods of Aspect script for their breakdown. Not that I will break down every one of them, as that would be an extremely long video. Instead, I'm just going to kind of give an overview of them. After that, I plan to dive more into the lore of the worlds themselves, from an overview of their history to videos on specific nations, events, and factions. Once again, thank you to any who stopped for a while and take a listen.